Welcome and thank you for stopping by Planet1wp. My name is Josie Carr, and today we'll be talking about the Vocoder Audio Effect that you guys heard me mess around with at the beginning of the show. And usually I try to cover things that are probably a little bit out the box. Sometimes they might be advanced, sometimes they might be in between, but overall they're pretty techniques that you can use if you choose to, whether you're doing live performance or whether you are doing production. So today I want to focus on the vocoder. The vocoder's been around for a long time. People like Kraftwerk used it, Kanye's used it, a lot of EDM producers as well have used it. So today I'll cover how to set up a microphone, how to set it up with an instrument, and how to trigger it and use it. It should be pretty easy and pretty fun to use as well. So let's get right to it. Let's not waste any time. I'm just going to switch my system over so you guys can see my computer and how to set it up. By the way, I have two microphones and I'll bring this one over. The second one that I have here, I will be using for the vocoder effect, and this one just to talk to you guys. Cool. So I'm going to switch my system. Cool. So you guys should now be able to see the Ableton software, my push controller, and a few other controllers that I have here on my work desk as well. And the first thing that we need to talk about is, again, we need two types of tracks for this to work, for the vocoder effect to work. We need an audio track and we need an instrument track. The audio track is where we will have our microphone hooked up to, and that will be known as our modulator. And then the instrument track where we will add an instrument to, and it would be used as the carrier. But the first thing we have to do is just to make sure that Ableton recognizes that we do have a microphone hooked up to it and who will be the microphone, okay? So to do that, as always, we go Command comma to get into the preferences of the long wave file, live and preferences. I'm gonna go to the audio tab here and I'm gonna make sure that it understands what external audio interface I'm using. I am using a Tractor Audio 10 on that side there, all the way there. It has 10 inputs and 10 outputs. So here on my audio input device, I've selected that Tractor Audio interface. As you can see, 10 in and out. And as for the output, I've done the same. If you guys go into the input configuration, you have to turn on the inputs that you're using. In my case, I turned them all on because I use them for different reasons. And I've labeled my input number 4 as vocal microphone because that is where I have this microphone that I'm using for the vocoder hooked up physically into input number 4 on my audio interface. This one I'm using to broadcast, and this one I actually have hooked up to input 1 and 2. But remember, we're going to be using this one that's hooked up to input number 4. And I've made sure that those are on because they're yellow. And I always check my output as well, make sure that my outputs are on so I can hear that. Okay. Once I'm done with that, I just want to make sure that my buffer size is pretty low because I don't want latency, what is known as delay. So when you talk, you kind of hear yourself late. That is latency. And you should use a low buffer size to prevent that from happening if your computer can handle it. If not, then you'll have to come up and bear with it. Okay, cool. So once we're done with that, again, we'll create 2 tracks, an audio track and an instrument track. On the audio track, I am going to make sure that my inputs and outputs are in view all the way here on the right hand side. Okay, and on that audio track, it's asking me who do I want to receive audio from? Well, my external input, which is my Tractor Audio 10, so I've selected that. And the input, again, remember that I said I would use would be input number 4 for this microphone right here. Okay, so now if I wanted to test this microphone down here, I would simply talk into it and I would be able to hear it. Hear the track as well. It's pretty low, but you guys can see that. Okay, so I have level going in. I'm pretty satisfied that I've set that up correctly. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my MIDI track and I'm going to add an instrument to that MIDI track. I've opted to use the analog instrument. You can choose any instrument you want to. I simply took it, I dragged it right on top of the track, and as you guys can see, I have it down here. One of the things that I did do here, I went to the envelope, the amps envelope, and I made sure that the decay was all the way, it was long, and that the sustain was up. That way, if I do decide to hold the note as I'm singing, the amp envelope will hold that note out for me. So just a heads up, you can use any instrument, but make sure that the envelope that you use will hold sustaining notes, okay? So once that was done, I made sure that I left this track on record. This track has to stay on record because I have to be able to hit some notes to trigger the vocoder effect, okay? So I've left that on record. I've muted the track because I don't want to hear the analog, okay? I just want to hear the vocoder effect, okay? So I'll go back to the audio track, and on that track is where I am going to add the vocoder audio effect. The vocoder is an audio effect, okay? So audio effects, I take it and I drag it right onto that track, okay? So I'm all set up. I have 2 tracks. Now on the vocoder, when I look at the vocoder has to be set up to be able to be used in this way because the vocoder audio effect could be used for different things. It can be used to generate noise, as you can see here, that we can use if we were working with percussive instruments and we wanted to make them sound better or more complex, or just in general add more harmonics to them. We can use the noise generator. In this case, I want to use it to be able to sing into it and to have that vocoder effect. So I've set it up to external. Okay, so it recognizes it's receiving the input from this external track right here, number 4, because it's on the same track. Okay, and underneath that, I'm saying who's going to be the carrier. Who are you going to receive the carrier information from? Well, this track is called analog. So I said the carrier is going to be the analog track. So there you have it. Input is coming in from this microphone external, and the carrier information is coming from the analog instrument. I put it on pre because I don't want to worry about how loud this is, or if this is off, or if I'm using any additional effects. But again, these are my settings. You can choose and try, different ways that would work best for you. Okay. Now, a quick thing. Remember, this track has to be in record for the vocoder effect to work. So let's test it out. Okay. I'm going to put this on record. And I'm going to switch microphones for a minute. I will talk into this. No wonder, I can play chords if I wanted to. So you basically could pick chords, single notes. You could add even MIDI effects that generate chords, sort of what I did over here when I was messing around earlier. But again, let's keep it simple, okay? So that is the way that you would set up your vocoder to, if you wanted to use it in the same way that the old school artists and some of the new school artists are using, like Kraftwerk, maybe Kanye, a lot of EDM artists are using it as well. This would be the way that you would do it. You would create two types of tracks again, an audio and an instrument track. Your audio track is where you will hook up your microphone and you would add the vocoder audio effect to. And the instrument track is an instrument that you would select to be the carrier, okay? Once it's on that audio track, okay, the vocoder effect, make sure that in the left section, you set it to external so it can receive your microphone's input. And the carrier information underneath that, you should tell it where it's coming from. And in my case, it's the analog audio instrument that I've used, okay? And now I have to make sure that I leave my instrument track on record if I want to use the effect to record something in production, or when I am performing live, I can have it so I can trigger it as well. And keep in mind that I did turn off the analog sound because I don't want to hear it. I just want to hear the effect. But some people actually like to use it, and they'll just bring down the volume and kind of have a mix of that analog instrument and the vocoder effect at the same time. Again, it's preference, it's what you like, but you have choices, right? So we have a question on the chat here that says, can you use the podcast type microphone for this? You can use any type of microphone you actually want to use, which is a good question. The only thing is that you have to just make sure that you don't get feedback if it's too loud, you know, for it. But 100%, try it with your, if you have a podcast microphone, try it. And you should be able to follow along with the example. And thank you for the question, and thank you for watching as well. Cool, so now let's talk a little bit about the vocoder itself, okay? And I'll work with this mic. I'm feeling kind of, you know, claustrophobic here, but let's work it out. So the vocoder has bands here, okay, from 4 to 40 bands. If you have lower bands or filter bands, sort of like harmonics, right? The more harmonics we have, the brighter a sound is. So we have 4 bands. It's pretty old school. It's almost like the 70s or something like that. It would sound like that. And I'll show you guys what I mean. If I'm talking to it's very low, it's a very low 5. If I talk to this, you guys can see that it's very low, right? So I'm going to add more bands or more harmonics here. And now the sound is a lot brighter. Okay. We can go for the intro that I did. I think I used 20 bands, which is pretty cool. But by the way, if you hover over the display, you can draw your bands that you want and how loud you want them. Okay, keep that in mind as well. You're not restricted to just the presets that are there. Okay, I'm gonna go back to 20 and I'm just gonna max them out like I did. And if you wanna go to default, you can click on any parameter and hit delete and it will default to what it was. Next to that, you have the range, which means how loud frequencies do you want? Do you want to have a cap? Maybe they won't pass 5 kilohertz or so. So you can set that according to what you want. And the low frequencies as well. I'm going to hit delete just to reset. And bandwidth is how wide you want that band to be, okay? And gate is a pretty cool feature to have because what it does is sets a threshold of sound. So in other words, if I decide to talk into this microphone, it will pick me up really fast if I don't have a threshold on it. But if I put a threshold that, you know, maybe I'm fidgeting the microphone and I'm not right on it, the vocoder effect will start regardless. But if I put a threshold on it, it would actually wait for me to really talk into the microphone to start working. And that's actually good if you're performing live, right? Because there's a lot of rumbling sometimes that you don't want the microphone to necessarily start the vocoder effect with. So you could set a threshold. So pretty much it'll start working when you're right on that microphone. So that's a good way to use that gate. Level is the overall volume of the vocoder, okay? And to the right here, we'll see that it has the depth of it is how when the envelope starts to work, the depth of it for the envelope to start working. The attack is when will it start to work, and the release, when will it let go of the envelope as well. Format is sort of like timbre. So if you go all the way to the left, it starts to sound more masculine, and I'll show you what I mean. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Okay, so the way left is pretty low and towards the right is brighter, sort of like a guy and a girl. Okay, and then we have the dry and wet, which means is that you can have kind of a blend of your actual voice with a little bit of the vocoder effect if you want to do that as well. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Check, 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 check. So you could be like a hybrid alien or something. So here you have mono, which means the input into the vocoder will be mono, and the instrument that you have, its input will come into the vocoder in mono form. Okay, stereo would mean that it would come in mono, and the analog instrument will come in stereo, and LR means that both the input and the output would be stereo. Okay, and if you go here on the side, by the way, and you hover it over anything, it actually gives you information about what it is. Just open this tab here on the side and you guys can see the information. Cool, I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. Like I said, it's pretty fast, and hopefully you guys will tune in next week. And as the show progresses, obviously I am trying to get a little bit better because I'm a one-woman operation for real. So hence Planet1wp, but I'll be looking forward to possibly adding some artists that'll come in here, play some stuff, and pretty much share their techniques with you guys. For now, again, as always, I would like to thank you guys for stopping by my channel and just checking out the craziness that goes on in this channel. Today we talked about the Vocoder Audio Effect. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And again, my name is Josie Carr. Thank you for stopping by Planet1wp. Ciao. I'll be loving you, let's get real, get real. I'll be loving you, let's get real, get real. I'll be loving you, let's get real, get real. I'll be loving you, let's get real, get real. I'll be loving you, let's get real, get real. I'll be loving you, let's get real, get real. Cool.